So you may be aware that there are plenty of privacy-focused options out there, and the Punct MC03 is being sold as a catch-all privacy solution for those that want a piece of modern technology without the trappings of Google. But who is this phone actually for, and does it achieve what it sets out to? Well, let's get into it in this video. For more on devices like this, Android, everything else in between, ROMs and privacy content, then hit subscribe. I'd love to have you on board. Cheers. So right out the gate, I have to say I love how inconspicuous this is as a device. It's just a plain black box, which I'm sure is a key selling point. Although I will say regular smartphones would probably be even more inconspicuous in this day and age, given that you see these various form factors in your daily life. But that's by the by, it's not necessarily a distraction in that respect. I will say this phone is not quite rugged, but it definitely feels more robust in the hand, which is something I really like. I like that the extra attention to detail has been paid to something that might be used long into the future, and phones don't necessarily always hold up as well as you would hope they would when you've taken them straight out of the box. That thought also extends to the removable backplate, which hides a few nice tricks on the Punct MC03. Firstly, there is a user repairable battery, and I'm saying repairable because while you actually can replace it, you can't replace it quickly like you could on phones of yesteryear. A little bit of work is needed here. That said, you can still swap out a failing battery if needed without needing a heat gun, suction cups, or any other specialist tools. Just a small screwdriver should get you set up and running with a replacement battery. It is a 5,200 milliamp hour cell, which I think with careful management shouldn't be a problem area, but the replaceability is a great bonus. As I say, you can quickly take a toolkit, put in another cell if there are problems with this, but there aren't any for sale at the time of this video going live. You will, though, need to remove that backplate to access the micro SD card slot, which it does have. It's not something that everybody does need, but I do think it is a nice added bonus. The MC03 does support up to 1TB expansion cards, so it's a great option to have this, but there is 256GB of onboard storage on this device, so plenty of space right out of the box if you need it. I will say that the hardware isn't without its disappointments, though. The most notable omission is the headphone port. I think for a device that markets itself on utility, independence, and a break from mainstream tech trends, forcing users into the Bluetooth ecosystem feels a little bit like an oversight. Bluetooth does come with its own set of privacy caveats and tracking concerns, and for many in the privacy-focused community, a wired connection remains the gold standard for both security and simplicity. So it's a sad omission here, but yeah, kind of is the case with lots of other phones out there. The 120Hz OLED display is another solid inclusion that rounds out what is a decent hardware package. Sure, it's not going to be the brightest, nor is it the most color accurate, but it is fairly pleasant. It's on a par with older flagship phone displays, but a noticeable step down from any that you'll get on top tier phones from the past 2 years. I'd kind of liken it to the Pixel 7a and the Pixel 8a displays to try and put it into some more context, which themselves have good displays. So yeah, pretty solid, not necessarily the best. Powering the show here is a MediaTek Dimensity 7300 chip, and for performance I think that is absolutely fine, but it does pose some other questions for support windows, as MediaTek chips are not technically supported by Graphene OS and some other privacy-focused ROMs. This is something you do need to consider, as it will affect software choices you have for a phone like this in the long term. And the team behind Graphene OS have no supposed plans to support MediaTek chips as of early 2026. And I do wonder if this was a conscious choice from Punct, the company behind this, but it could simply be that the chip was chosen to reduce manufacturing costs. So I'm probably going to err on that side of things for what it's worth, but it does mean that you're not necessarily getting top tier performance, and it may pose some questions later down the line. I'll only briefly touch on the camera here, as it's not necessarily a key component of this piece of hardware. And while it does have some modest sensors on board, I think it has just enough to get the job done on a day-to-day basis. It's probably on par with most budget phones, maybe close to a few mid-ranges out there. It's not setting the world alight, it's not amazing. I did have some tempered expectations, and I still wasn't outright disappointed, put it that way. So yeah, it's a positive, but at the same time, there are better cameras probably at this price point out there. Speaking about the software experiences, I think this is where the MC03 attempts to justify its premium existence. It runs Apostrophe OS, or I think it's AFI OS. It's based on a 2-year-old Android 15 build for what it's worth. This could be a problem if you wanted the latest version of Android. I'm kind of confused as to why it's not running Android 16, but it is what it is. It could be no hindrance to you whatsoever, so yes, you'll have to make that decision for yourself. This version of Android 15, though, has a slightly split interface, has 2 distinct spaces. You have the Vault and what the developers call the Wild Web, which I think is an insane name to call this, but it's essentially the standard Android home screen experience that we're all accustomed to. You have your apps, you have your app drawer, you have widgets, all that options. The Vault, however, acts as a clean room for your most sensitive applications. I couldn't find any detailed information of what actually differs here, but you can put applications into this section for quick access and I guess a more secure experience, which I assume is why this place exists. This siloed area is just a quick scrollable list, and after unlocking your phone, it will place you right here. Swipe left or right and switch between these options. Yeah, it's that simple. I do think this dual-sided approach is smooth, it's really aesthetically pleasing, but the out-of-the-box security, for me, is a little bit concerning. So despite running a modern version of Android, at least within the last 2 versions, my test unit currently sits on the May 2025 security patch, and in the time I've been testing it, I haven't seen a single update, which is a tough pill to swallow for a device that charges a premium for its privacy and security. I think if you do choose to forgo Google Play services, there isn't really much here pre-installed out of the box. You can choose to slap a number of Proton applications on as they play a key role in the Apostrophe OS build here on the MC03. While the Proton suite is popular among those seeking privacy, you'll need to ask yourself whether it meets your goals and whether you're willing to pay for the services they provide. The rest of the AOSP applications are fairly basic and come pre-installed here. You have your phone app, messages, gallery files, contacts, calendar, all the gang is here. Vanadium is the pre-installed browser. It's exactly like it is on Graphene OS. There is, however, the Punkt App Store, which sadly, I have to say, is completely barren. It's devoid of all but the most business-like of applications. Luckily, you do have services like Aurora Store and F-Droid, which will have you covered for all of the extras. Your first port of call, I think, should be to get those downloaded if you do want anything beyond the really, really basics. I set this up without the Google Play Store or Google Mobile Services. You can install this at any time from your phone. It's really, really easy. As I say, you can install this sandbox version if you want Google applications. This allows for further control of what data is to be derived or pulled from your phone or your account. Again, none of this is new to anyone who's used Graphene OS for what it's worth. One notable about the home screen experience, though, that I think makes little sense to me in how it works is the ledger function. So you long press an application and you get the ledger option. This just allows you to check and adjust data access using toggles and a power usage option, which is weirdly called carbon reduction for whatever reason. Don't know why it's called that. Doesn't offer you any detailed statistics or data, which kind of makes it not that much better than the regular app controls built into AOSP on Android and the privacy dashboard that's built within it. But yeah, think of it as a new version of privacy dashboard. I think all of this is great, but there is the elephant in the room that really needs to be talked about. Apostrophe OS on the MC03 relies on a subscription. Yeah, you heard me, a subscription. So for the first year of usage after you purchase this, the Apostrophe OS updates and all the features that come with it are completely free. Then this pricing goes up to, I think, $10 a month. So if you choose not to pay this fee, your phone will just revert to this AOSP or open source Android build. There's no mention of which build it is. It's just a build. It's whatever's pre-installed on your phone. This just means all of the Apostrophe OS stuff will stop working and some of the special features will be unavailable. What's more, because of the chip that they've used, this poses another problem because it means you're sort of being held to ransom on the software side of things, as Graphene OS can't be installed on this, at least as of this video going live. A mandatory subscription is going to be needed to access the entirety of the MC03 experience. I'll stop short of calling this privacy as a service model, but it kind of feels like it. To compound this further, there's also the irony of the onboarding process. To get a device designed to protect your identity, you effectively have to provide your personal and payment information to Punct after this point. And for the truly paranoid, this paper trail is exactly what you're trying to avoid by going for a privacy-focused device. And it kind of really does leave a sour taste in my mouth. Shockingly though, this is actually the first privacy-focused smartphone, at least hardware, that I have actually ever used, or at least the first such device that is sold on that key component. And while it's a competent piece of technology, I do wonder who this was even made for. I think it's probably for the people who are a little bit lazy and don't want to put graphene on a device of their own. I think instead of spending upwards of $600 on a product like this, my personal preference, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, would be to use an older device like, say, the Pixel 7, the 7a, the Pixel 8, and just go and install Graphene OS on it, as you'll get a cheaper product and all of the same experience anyway. I've done this previously, and I think the experience with Graphene OS is genuinely excellent for the privacy focused. You get free support and a cheaper phone to boot, and because Apostrophe OS is merely a fork of Graphene OS anyway, you only miss out on a few of the features that I don't think are necessarily groundbreaking. It is a really interesting device. It's an interesting product, and it does give people who aren't confident enough to go ahead and throw a custom ROM on their phone an option to get an out-of-the-box experience, and it is what it is. But yeah, really strange product. I don't necessarily think it's the best privacy-focused option out there, as there are other options, as I noted. But yeah, let me know what you think. It's a really interesting time for the de-Googling gang among us. And yeah, interesting product. Not necessarily one that I would recommend to many people. But yeah, as I say, let me know what you think down in the comment sections below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at a very different product here on the channel, and I'll speak to you later.